I know you can appreciate this because obviously you guys work at the grants office. But there's a lot, right? Like, I mean, the number of acronyms and titles of grants that we talked about is almost like I need Newton's Telecom Dictionary to go, figure out what those are. But if I'm like, we're in the business, right? Like we work in technology, you guys work in grants. Like, so, I would say we have an edge up on understanding some of this stuff, but again, so let's go back to the people we're trying to do this for, right? The communities, the schools. Talk to me a little bit about like how, how do manufacturers, how do partners like how do people work together to help? I mean, dummy down is not the right way to say it, but like, I mean, how do you explain some of this stuff? Because it's complicated. And if I'm doing a day job and I'm trying to figure out 10 different grants, like that's not simple. Like, so what are the mechanisms in place between partners, manufacturers, people like you that help the people we're actually trying to serve?
Yeah, give me the easy button to make it rain.
So, I mean, with schools specifically, what vendors can do, what providers can do is really, help with some of that lifting that the school, they're worried about staffing. They're worried about, isolating kids who've tested positive. They're worried about, kids, stealing stuff from the bathroom. You know what I mean? They have their direction in addition to like student, test scores and what their goals are, as a district of what they want to kind of achieve or show as kind of student attainment. So what a vendor or what a provider can do is really assist with assessments that can provide, quantifiable data, to kind of say like, hey, we definitely need this, right? So kind of making those assessments and everything accessible, reducing cost barriers associated with it is possible, measuring and assessing those needs. And you get, as a vendor or a provider, you get to actually hear what the school actually needs. So that's a big important part of it, is like listening to a school about what they actually need and maybe having those conversations as opposed to kind of imposing needs on a school, listening, hearing what they need, getting a sense of what can be developed or what can be quoted in products and solutions that best fit that school, as opposed to kind of thinking that it's a one size fit all approach. Because one thing I've learned over the course of consulting with schools is that each school is different, right? Like each school has their own unique needs. They have, there's some schools that have had the same kind of stability and leadership for decades. And then there are some who are people who've been thrust into this position at, the most chaotic time. So what a vendor or what a provider can do is kind of reach out, have those conversations, provide, quantifiable data that says like, okay, this is your need. This is what we can do to help address that need. And maybe, remove some of that kind of, that crosstalk and kind of get the actual piece of paper in front of them that says like, hey, all right, you said you needed this. This is what we can provide, and this is how it'll help you. So that's from a K-12 perspective of what like a vendor can do or what a provider can do for that community. Richard, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to stress is that the most successful tech companies that we work with on like grant projects see themselves as partners on the project with the customer that they're selling their solutions to. So rather than like just trying to make a quick buck, like definitely following through on the project and like working with the customer as much as they can is really important.
Well, it does take a village to make these initiatives happen. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I know we've worked with you guys on a few opportunities, and I mean, just knowing what funding is there is really amazing. I'm curious, like, what's the largest grant fund amount that you found available for a particular customer?
Oh, so like our largest win, like our largest success story.
Just curious,
Yeah, in the state and local government space, it's usually from Department of Transportation grants. So not really like necessarily broadband focused. I know like the Advanced Transportation Congestion Management and Deployment Program is a big one. And then like there's some, I don't know if you guys care about transportation grants, but those are typically the biggest ones. And then stimulus funding also with CARES Act Coronavirus Relief Fund and American Rescue Plan. State and local fiscal recovery funds can have some big awards, especially to states.
Yeah, and in K-12 schools, I mean, ARP ESSER 3, so the most recent ESSER bucket is I think north of $122 billion that was passed from the federal government onto state education agencies.
Wow.
So some of the larger cities like Chicago, Houston, Dallas, New York, their awards for ESSER 3 can be in the hundreds of millions. So obviously they serve an immense amount of students, and their needs are going to be different depending on where within that city those schools exist. In terms of traditional opportunities, there are some grants that will award, for instance, 4 million over 4 or 5 years. EIR, early phase, is one that comes to mind. That is trying to look for innovative methods for student achievement and attainment in anything from STEM to general field-initiated innovations to social emotional learning. And obviously that involves like a comprehensive project and a team in place at the school to help implement some of that. But if that project involves needing to, for STEM education, if vital components, say a makerspace, right? So some of the awards for that, some of that money for the budget, not only for staff, not only for programming, but also for maybe the tech needs that the school might have to implement some of that. So there are definitely opportunities out there. The stimulus funding is, it's unprecedented, the amount of money that has been passed through to schools. But some of the traditional grant opportunities definitely, we see opportunities in the hundreds of thousands to the millions, depending on what the opportunity itself is.
Yeah, Patrick,
I
you just
guess
reminded me. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think I ever said like the amount that's in the American Rescue Plan, state and local fiscal recovery funds. It's 350 billion, so it's a lot of money.
Wow.
And broadband infrastructure is an explicitly eligible expense, so that's probably like the biggest broadband funding source for state and local governments at the moment.
So the takeaway is for all of these schools and communities is listen, partner, plan, spend, and implement. Right. It's like,
Yeah.
and making sure they've got the right people and in place to, I think, Patrick, you made a great point that, these schools and communities, they are different. And, even if it's not rural, like, it's inside urban areas, like they're all different. They all require different things and they need help. Right.